Welcome to Wake Up Canada News. I'm Brad Wyatt. Well, the change of power in Canadian politics. Just what does that look like today? From Mark Carney to Freeland, they both want it. But Canadians don't. There's more to come right after this. At the Cork and Flame, we're always cooking and ready with the finest for all our customers any time of day or night. From breakfast brunch to lunch and dinner, steak and seafood to ribs and more. The Cork and Flame Fine Dining. Always fresh, with fabulous desserts and a narration of the urban landscape, plus a passion for quality food. Eat, drink, chill. Cork and Flame, 3106 Portage Avenue. There's no hurry, so sit back and relax. Welcome back. Prime Minister Carney, eh? Canada deserves better than this progressive piece of you know the rest. Canadians must be rolling in their sleep at the prospect of a leader even more stuck up the WEF's ass and incompetent than the current Prime Minister. Now, spare a thought for Canadians who have had to endure a decade of Justin Trudeau, only to discover that Mark Carney is now running to replace him. And it's not just him. It's Freeland, too. We'll get to her. It was bad enough that the Canadian Prime Minister, who announced his resignation earlier this month, presided over the gradual destruction of Canada's economy, immigration system, and international standing. But now Canadians are facing the prospect of someone even more destructive and incompetent, if that's even possible, taking his place. And I hate to say it, but it is. As a self-satisfied former governor of the Bank of England from 2013 to 2020, Maniac Carney tried to carve out a reputation as the only grown-up in the room. That didn't go far. Listen to his supporters and you'd be forgiven for thinking he was banking's answer to the Messiah. In fact, he wasn't the second coming, but in reality, Carney helped screw the British economy by bungling their monetary policy, maintaining ultra-low interest rates and huge amounts of quantitative easing. Since then, well, he's been a spokesman for central banks to focus on climate change, even though their core role is price stability. At one point on Carney's watch, England had the highest inflation in the G7. He was also completely lacking in any neutrality when it came to Brexit. Now, instead of encouraging England to embrace Britain's newfound freedoms, Carney was one of the chief architects of Project Fear, which, well, denigrated the status of the City of London and badly damaged consumer confidence. Now, in more recent times, Carney has been one of the most vocal supporters of Rachel Reeves, praising the Chancellor as the serious economist. Admittedly, this was before she was forced to revise her CV to clarify she only spent 6 years and not a decade at the Bank of England, and that she was in retail banking at the Royal Bank of Scotland, having previously claimed she was an economist there. Now, in a video message to Labour's annual conference back in 2023, Carney gushed. Crucially, she understands the economics of work, of place and family. Really? That's not what the markets nor many businesses seem to think. Carney's rival for the position of Liberal leader is none other than Freeland. Freeland set the target. The government must keep the deficit under $40.1 billion. It's a pass-fail question, she wrote herself, and, well, she's already headed toward the failing side of the equation. But even if the government is finally able to meet its own budget target, will it still be a failure? Or, pardon me, it will still be a failure. That's because coming up $40 billion short is an F anywhere outside of Ottawa. There's no pandemic. Inflation fattened the government coffers for years. The government has continually taken more money from Canadians, and it still can't get its finances in order. Wasting more than $1 billion every week paying interest charges on the debt is a failure. And who do we owe exactly? In fact, every dollar Canadians pay in federal sales taxes now goes to pay interest on the debt. That's a failure too. This year, the federal government is wasting more money on interest charges than it's sending to the provinces in health transfers. That deserves a failing grade as well. Not to mention, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau officially doubled the debt. It took nearly 24 prime ministers and a century and a half to rack up $616 billion in debt, where the total stood before Trudeau took office. Less than a decade later, Trudeau doubled the debt to $1.232 trillion. That deserves a huge F. And missing budget targets isn't an exception for this government. It's a rule. Back in 2015, Trudeau promised modest short-term deficits of less than $10 billion before balancing the budget in 2019. Trudeau ran an $18 billion deficit in 2016, a $19 billion deficit in 2017, and a $14 billion deficit in 2018. And instead of balancing the budget in 2019, Trudeau ran a $20 billion deficit. These days, the only mention of balanced budgets comes from the Parliamentary Budget Officer. The PBO estimates the government won't balance the budget until 2040. But even that balanced budget relies on economic growth every year and no new spending. Trudeau can't meet his own self-imposed budget targets because he can't control his spending. Every year, the government says how much it's going to spend over the next handful of years, and every year this government blows through that projection. Here's just one example. The 2019 Fall Economic Statement first projected 2024 spending to be $420.5 billion, and the government now plans to spend $534.6 billion this year. A $114 billion increase. Last year, the government promised to find savings of $15.4 billion over the next 5 years. How's that going? Well, the government increased spending by $24 billion last year and plans to increase spending by another $111 billion over the next 5 years. To add insult to injury, Freeland and Trudeau are rewarding themselves for failure. Trudeau appointed Freeland as finance minister in the summer of 2020. Since then, the government tabled 4 budgets and added about $500 billion to the debt. Since then, Freeland's salary increased by $30,100 to $299,900. Trudeau's salary increased by, $41,000 to $406,200. Those salaries are going in the wrong direction also. Even if Trudeau and Freeland managed their $40 billion deficit target, it's still a failure. But there's a bold prediction. They're going to fail their own test and blow through their own deficit target. After years of financial mismanagement, passing grades are only for politicians who cut spending and balance the budget, and neither one of these individuals are worthy of the attempt, as Canadians cannot afford any more. Thanks for watching Wake Up Canada News. I'm Brad Wilder. Please like, share, follow, and subscribe to any of our socials on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, and BitChute. Till next time, remember, you're the voice, and it's time to make it count. I'll see you next time.